Hey, third graders. We've been talking about figurative language. The last couple of weeks, we've talked about alliteration, which is using a lot of words with the same beginning sounds, like Sally sells seashells by the seashore. That was an example we had last week. And then we also talked about onomatopoeia, which is using sound words in your writing. And something we know about really good writers is that they use different ways to paint a picture in the minds of their readers. And a really great way to do that is by using figurative language. So today we're going to talk about a new type of figurative language, and that is called simile. And it looks a lot like the word smile with an extra I. So I'm going to write it out. And again, like we did last week, if you want to do this along with me, you can grab some markers and just some printer paper or some lined paper. And we're going to write simile across the top. And if you need to pause this video, just like we do with Art Hub, you can go ahead and pause it anytime you need and then come back to it. So I'm just gonna make this kind of fun because I think similes are fun. So I'm gonna make a little fancy writing here. And I'm gonna write out a definition. So a simile is when you compare two different things using the word or words like or as. So I'm gonna write that out. A simile compares two things using the words like, I'm going to put quotation marks around them, like, or as. All right, and just like we did last time, we're going to go ahead and make a little T-chart with some examples and some sketches. So I am going to go ahead and draw out my T-chart. Here we go. And it's all the way down the middle. I'm going to have an example. And a sketch. Okay, so my first example is comparing my hands, which are really cold, to something else that is really cold. So in my example, I'm going to say my hands are as cold as, and then I'm going to think about what else is really cold. And I know, of course, that ice is really cold. So I'm going to say my hands are as cold as ice. All right. And then I'm going to draw a little sketch of that. So over here, on the other side, I have a little hands. And I think for my ice, instead of drawing a cube of ice, I'm going to actually draw some snowflakes. So that's really cold too. If you've ever held a snowball in your bare hands, you know that that is super cold. So I'm going to draw some little snowflakes here. And there we have a simile comparing two different things, very different, to say how cold my hands feel. Right. My next example is I am going to compare a really colorful flower garden, because right now I have noticed around my neighborhood there are a lot of really lovely flowers popping up, And I am gonna make a comparison to those colorful flowers to something else that's very colorful. And while I'm writing this out, you might be thinking of some different kinds of examples of your own, and you can totally substitute your own examples in place of mine. So I'm gonna say the flower garden is like a rainbow after a thunderstorm. Okay, and now I'm gonna make a quick sketch of my flower garden. So here it is. I'm gonna start with some grass. Here we go. And like I said, if you want to come up with your own examples, you can, or you can just copy mine, or you can also just feel free to watch these examples and then we'll apply them in a poem again. So here's my flower garden, and I am going to use a rainbow of colors. So I'm going to have a red flower, and hopefully you remember all the colors of the rainbow. Next is orange. I'm going to make an orange tulip. I've seen some of those in my neighborhood. And yellow is next. I'm gonna try, ooh, that yellow is super bright. You might not be able to see that. Let me switch that up. I'm going to draw an orange center and then some yellow petals around. And I've seen some daffodils that look a little like this in my neighborhood. I'm going to go ahead and skip the green, although that would be next because I haven't seen too many green flowers, but I have seen some blue ones like this. These flowers are called hyacinths. I love them. If you have them around, go and stick your nose in one and smell it. It smells so amazing. So there's a little hyacinth and one more. I'm just gonna do a swirly guy here. All right, so that's my rainbow of flowers, and I'll go ahead and just sketch in a couple other ones really quick. There's another orange one, and let's see, maybe another blue hyacinth. I really love those. Okay, and for one more, I always like to do 3 examples so we really get it solid. I am going to compare my dog. In my class, maybe you remember, I have a new dog and she's super soft. So I'm going to describe her fur. So I'm going to say my dog's fur. Grab the right marker here. My dog's fur is as soft as, and what? What do you think is really soft? My dog's fur is as soft as, you know what's really soft? A cotton ball. So now I'm gonna just make a little sketch of her. Let's see. She is yellow. I wonder if I can find a yellow that you can see. Here we go. Yeah, maybe you can see that. I'm just gonna draw her soft fur. Can you see that? Barely. You can barely see it. Okay, and I'll draw her a little nose and mouth and some eyes. And I'll give her a little red collar. All right, and I'll write out her name. Her name is Hazel. Okay, so now there are 3 examples of simile, and the last step that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and highlight in my examples where the simile is. So in this example, my hands are as cold as ice. So I'm gonna put a little box around hands and cold as ice, because those are the 2 things that I'm comparing. And this one, the flower garden, is like a rainbow. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a box around those 2. And the last one is my dog's fur. And it's as soft as a cotton ball. So that's what I said that's like. Okay. All right, so hopefully now you can come up with some great examples of simile too.